So I went and bought some new parts today. I'm going to be upgrading the computer I've already got. We're going to be using the same hard drives, which are SSD. We've got two of those. We've got a terabyte standard drive, and we'll be using the same power unit, which is this one here, if you can see that, which is the X Viper 750 watt, which is, I didn't buy it that long ago and it works perfectly fine. So what did we get? Well, we picked up the AMD Black Edition 8-core. It's the 8320E, which is perfectly adequate for playing games. Yes, I could have gone for Intel's, but then I would have been paying a heck of a lot more as well. But all these processors are quite adequate at playing today's games. In the end, and you know, put the actual setup is where the what you really need to get sorted out properly. So we've got this. We've obviously got that. We're going to ditch the stock fan and we're going to put this one on. But as you can see, it's a big old fan. This is the Hyper 212 Evo. We'll go with this one for now. If I decide I need more, because I am going to overclock this right up as far as it will go at some point, and if I find this isn't good enough, then we'll go for liquid cooling, which will probably get a Corsair or something along those lines. The RAM we're using is Ripjaws RAM. Now the only reason I've got this one against the Corsair is I already have two of these in the computer at the moment, so it'll just, you know, I can add to this. This is 8 gigabyte, there's 4 in there, it's the same unit, so pretty much they'll be fine together. And if I want to push up the RAM a little bit further, I can put the other ones in as well. Now motherboard is that one. It's Asus. Now I did spend a little bit more on the motherboard, but that's purely because I wanted to get one with more heat sinks and more overclockability to it. So there she is. You can see she's got a lot of metal on her, so that should be perfect for what I'm doing. And like I say, we are going to overclock the 8 cores. Now the thing is, it is for gaming, but it's also for doing all the rendering and that, and that's why I've got the 8 core against just getting an Intel. And on top of that, the equivalent Intel would have cost me another £70 or so, and this was quite enough. I think it was £82 for this, and this was £24. The board was, what was the board? About £71 I think for the board, and these about £38 I think for the RAM. And like I say, they will be going into a system. I'm going to be replacing an old Athlon 2631, I think it is, the Athlon I've got in there at the moment. And the motherboard, which is the motherboard in there I've got, is just a gigabyte, but it's just a basic one. So it's just basically ramp it up. But what I really want is the rendering, because obviously I want to hurry up and speed up the rendering. But again, it's about getting the parts that will gel well together. I mean, you can go out and buy the biggest graphics card you can find, but if your system can't handle it or bottlenecks, it's not going to make the slightest bit of difference, you know. It may look good on to everybody who sees it, but when you actually come to use it, it doesn't always work out the way you want it. Now theoretically, these parts should go well together, and there is, like I say, a huge overclocking headroom hopefully. And combined it with, we're going to put it with a Radeon R9 285, and that should be enough for now. I mean, I will update within a couple of years anyway, so it's not like I'm keeping the computer for many years. Well, I will keep the computer for many years, but it'll just be purely for you know, using office work afterwards. So yeah, so we'll come back when we've installed all this into the computer. Right, well there it is, all assembled. Just needs the casing on. You'll have to excuse the shakiness. That's me with the camera taking it off the tripod so you can get a good closer look at it. So well, you start off with you've got your power unit, modular, 750 watt. Ideal, means you can keep the cables down so you don't get too much obstruction for your airflow. And you've got your Coolmaster slung on top. You've got your 8 core underneath, your AMD, and your motherboard's down here with your graphics card, the 285, the R9, and you've got your crucial SSD, and there's another one actually on the other side which you can't see, but it's basically pinned to the side like that. It's just to keep it all out of the way. And you've got your storage drive in here behind the wires, just a DVD drive there, and you've got your RAM down there, which is 8GB at the moment. But if you look over here, this is the old board we took out, just a small board there, a micro one, but it's got the same ramming, so we can always take that and put it in there if we want. Although I might just assemble that as a general internet. You have to excuse the mess. You can see that when you do a few computers over the years, you tend to get a lot of leftover bits and pieces, which all come useful. All these cables end up being useful. Now you think, well, why go with AMD? Well, I want the 8 cores for obviously rendering and all that kind of good stuff. And I do actually have an Intel, which is over here, but this is more of a workhorse kind of thing I use. Just it's got a 7850 graphics card in it, but it's an old X-Blade case, so it's like a secondary computer. So when you can game on that one as well. Whoa, focus, there we go. Yeah, you can game on that one as well. Obviously you can't do anything too intensive with it, but you can do bits and pieces. So yeah, what we'll do is we'll take this one and I'll set it all back up with all its gubbins, all its OS and all the rest of it, and then I'll put some games on and we'll just see how they run. I might add it onto the end of this, or I might make it into a new video. It all depends, because I think what I'll do is I'll do the card not clocked, then I might want to do one clocked as well. We'll see. Right, so this is with the 8 core and the new motherboard fitted. As you can see, I've just put the same game we had a little while back. You can see the frames jump around quite a lot in this game. There's not a lot of difference from the other one, but this is actually on Ultra, whereas the previous one I believe was on maximum settings. So. But it's perfectly fine, and we'll pop back in a sec with Rust. So I gave up with the idea of putting Rust on because it's been updated so much that it's just completely changed, and I was having trouble actually getting it to record with the full screen and that. So what I've done is I've put on DayZ, everything on high, and this is what we're getting now. Of course the CPU might not make a huge difference on games in particular. One thing it does make a difference on, and that is rendering. When I actually render up a game, it literally cuts the time down in half from a quad core. Well, being 8 cores you'd think it would, so it is obviously making use of them, and it does make an awful big difference with that. Now as you can see, there's a wild swing. I mean, it is night time. A wild swing between sort of what we got there, 70s to sort of 30s, right down to, well, that went to 16 at one point. But yeah, but like I say, everything's cranked up on this, and as far as I know, DayZ kills your frame rate anyway. I haven't actually been in this game for a long time. It's, sort of went into it ages ago and played a bit, and I don't know, it just never seemed to be getting anywhere. How much has changed now? Who knows? So there you have it. Everything seems to work fine. And so far, the motherboard and CPU work fine on most games. I haven't had any problems, and I've also found that when you're playing the games, they tend to be a lot smoother with the 8 core as opposed to you know, having maybe something faster. Sometimes you get these choppy moments, but this seems to smooth out a lot in a lot of games. Not all games, but quite a few.